This is Gemara Baba Basra Daf Kof Lamid Ches. So the learning should bring an incredible zchus rafua shlema for Tinoi. Ben Miriam Ahuva B'siyata D'Shemaya the Koyach HaTorah should bring Tinoi Ben Miriam Ahuva a complete rafua shlema. We're holding on Kof Lamid Zayin Amid Beis. We are 4 lines from the bottom. Lei Ka'amar Leir. The first words on the line says the Gemara. Omar Rav Yehuda Omar Shmuel. HaKoisev nechasav la'acher. If someone writes his properties to someone else, attempting to give away, V'amar Halah, and the other guy says, you know what? I don't want to get involved. Efshi bahen, I do not want the properties. What's the halacha? Kana. That other guy is kaina. Even if the other guy is standing and he's screaming, I don't want it, I don't want it, he's still kaina. But Rav Yochanan Amar in the last line, like kaina. No, if Lamaisi he expresses that he doesn't want to have to be kaina these items, he is not. So says the Gemara, what exactly is going on between the Tanakama and Rav Yochanan? Amar Rav Avar Amamo v'loy pligi. Says Rav Avar Amamo as we turn over to today's Daf Kufla Minches, says Rav Ramamol, in reality, there is no machlokes between Rav Yochanan and the Tanakama. Kan b'tzavach meikara, kan b'tzavach, kan b'shaisek, ulb'sai meikara, ulb'sai b'tzavach. If he's screaming the whole time, that's where Rav Yochanan says, loikana. But if he was quiet and only afterwards does he start screaming, that's where the Tanakama says that he indeed is kaina the item. Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, but I'll tell you a case in which there is a machlokes. Zicha loy al yidei acher. Someone is mizakeh something to someone else. I could give you an item and say, please make a kinyan on behalf of someone else, and then your kinyan works for him. So Zika loy al yidei acher, v'shasak, and the recipient, the acher, is quiet, and then is screaming. In that case, that case is indeed a machlekes. The Tanya, we learned a machlekes. It goes in the chaz of the acher vayibehen avodim. If someone writes properties to someone else, giving away an estate, and there are avodim, v'amar, and the guy says, Allah yevshibem, I don't want them. So emayo rabban sheni kayin. The guy says, I don't want them. So if the second rabban, again, we're trying to talk klape these avodim that are part of the estate. So if the second guy who would be getting them, the acher, he's a kayin. The halacha is ari lo yichlam b'tshuma. Says the Tanakama, the avodim eat truma, meaning they're considered to be owned by that kayin. However, comes along, Rashba Goimer says of Shimon Gamliel 10 lines down, Kiman Shamar Allah Yev Sheben. Since the guy says, I don't want them, Kvar Zacha Ben Yarshin. Since the guy said, I don't want them, so then the giver's own Yarshim are Zoicha in the Avadim. So we see that in this case, that if someone is giving over his properties, and there are avodim included in the estate, that case is a machlokes. And the eventual recipient first was quiet and then was screaming and saying, I don't want it. In that case, says Rashbag, the acher is not koina, and the giver's own yarshim get the properties, get the avodim. Where it says the Tanakama, no, if the acher is a koyin, these avodim can already eat truma as they're considered to be owned by said acher. And we pondered and we wondered on this brayso. In this case, the Tanakama says that avodim can eat truma. Is that even if he's standing and he's screaming? And Amaramba v'itema Rav Yochanan v'tzavach meikara t'kuliyam l'ay pligi t'loy kani. If he was indeed screaming the whole time, then you're right. There would be no machlokes. Everyone would agree that avada there would be no king. Shasak l'b'soif savach. if he was quiet and then he screamed on the flip side. Everyone would agree that yes, there is a kinyan. Keep ligi. What is the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rashbag, the Rabban and Rav Shimon Gamliel? Shezika lo yahidei acher. Dafka in this case where you gave it over via a third party, and v'shazak ulibsaif savach, and the acher was quiet, and then only afterwards did he scream. So now that we understand where the machlokes is, this explains the Gemara. The Tanakama savar midishasak, since he was quiet to start, kaninu, so there was a kinyan, and therefore the fact that he subsequently screams is irrelevant to us. V'hai dekad savach, and right now he's screaming. Mahader u'tekah haderbe. He's trying to back out. And he's trying to say, I don't want them. But it's too late. They are your avadim. You can't just say you don't want them. And therefore, if you're a kayin, so much so, these avadim can eat truma. V'rashbag savar. Says no. He's not being chayzer. His eventual screaming is megale. It reveals. It's meichiach. It proves that originally he was never happy. So why didn't he scream the whole time? If you didn't want it, why didn't right away you say no? Why didn't he scream until now? Because he thought, it hasn't come to my hands. What should I scream about? And therefore, when he finally realized that, wait, this acher is doing a kinyan for me, he screamed, it's megala, he doesn't want it, and therefore it will not be his. So we began with a discussion of giving away properties to an acher. We said that in that case, there is no machlokes. And the Gemara says the only case that is a machlokes is this middle level case. There's a machlokes, Tanakama and Rav Shimon Gamliel, in this case in which it was mizakal de acher, so there was that level of unclarity because it wasn't going directly to him. And then there's this svara, says Rav Shimon Gamliel, that the acher could say, I don't have it. What am I screaming for? And therefore his original silence is not going to cause that he's kainet, because eventually he screams. Where it says the Tanakama, it's too late. You were quiet at first. That affected a kinyan. Now these avadim can even go and eat truma if you are a kayin. We continue about 20 lines from the bottom. The first one line is Tanu Rabbanan. We bring up a brisa. Someone on their deathbed says, give 200 zuz leplaini, v'shalosh meis leplaini, 300 to someone else, v'arba meis leplaini, and 400 to someone else. We do not say whichever star is first is Zoicha first. Rather, all three shtarais, all three matanos are considered to have a kinyan simultaneously. Lefikach. So what's the nafkamina? What's the takeaway? What's the halacha? Yatzalav shtar chayiv goyvet mikulam. If there's a shtar chayiv, there's a document that says this guy owes someone money. Goyvet mikulam. He could equally collect from all three recipients. Aval, that's case number A. Aval amar tunu matayim zos leploini. Ve'acharov leploini. Ve'acharov leploini. But if he says 200 to this guy, and then 300, and then 300, Mrim, then indeed, of course, then it goes from the back all the way up, because then he clearly gave it away in a progressive order. Continues the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, 10 lines down. The first one line is Mishal Fanav. Shchem Mara Sha'amar Tanu Matayim Zuz Leploini. B'ni Bechar Kara Iloi. The Shchimera again, a man of Shchimera as Matana, someone lying on his deathbed says, give 200 zuz leplaini. Excuse me. Pliny, my son, who's the Vachar, and he adds on, as is befitting to him, Nutlan, V'noitel es v'chayrasai. Says the Brisa, this child takes what the father just wrote to him, and he also takes his chelek b'chayra. He also takes his firstborn portion. However, im amar b'chayrasai, if the father said, here's 200 as your bechar, then that is his bechar. But yada yala yaina, he gets upper hand, rata naitlan, rata naitel b'charasai. Then says the Brisa, he does not get both, but yada yala yaina, he could decide. In the first case, it was in addition to his b'chayra, so he got both. In this case, the father said clearly, this is your b'chayra. Says the Brisa, yes, he's not going to get both, but the son could choose whether he wants this, or if he wants his bechar. Says the Gemara, and similarly, Ishti says, give 200 to my wife, it's befitting to her. Not lunch, she takes him and tells us ksubasa, she still gets a ksuba. Im amar bikik ksubasa. If he says, give her 200 zuz, and that is her ksuba, then it's mamish the same case, that she's not going to get both. But as we turn over to Kof Lam and Chesam and Beis, Yada Alel Yaina, Rata Natalasan, Rata Naitel's Ksubasa, she could choose whether she wants this or whether she wants her Kisuba. Continues the Gemara. So case number 1 was he gave it to his son the Bachar. Case number 2 was he gave it to his wife. Case number 3 was Shchemer Hashamar Tunu Mazayim Zuz Leblaini Bal Chayvi, who I owe money to Karaila Naitlan V'Naitlan Es Chayvai. Again, he takes it, he can still take the money that is owed to him. However, Vim Amar Bechayvai Naitlan Bechayvai, he has to take it as his chayv. He has to take it as his chayv. Again, so a slight nuance. No longer is it Yadai Al Yaina. No longer do we say that he could choose how he wants to take it. Rather, in this case of the Baal Chayv, this is the payment of the Chayv. Says the Gemara, 1 second. 5 lines down, Kof Lam and Chesam and Beis, Mishum da Amar Kara'ila. Naitlan, V'Naitlan as Chayvai. Because he said, as befits to him, he takes it and he also takes the money that's owed to him. Says the Gemara, we're asking on this third case in particular. Maybe this is exactly what he meant. Why did he say Kara'ila? Why did he say as befits him? Because maybe he meant as befits him, meaning this is the money that I owed him, Kamar. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Li, Huna, Ha Mani, whose opinion is this? This is Rabbi Akiva, the Dayik Lishna Yisira. So Rabbi Akiva who says that we're Medayik extra words, and therefore, says the Gemara, according to Rabbi Akiva, the fact he says Kara'ila, there was no reason for it, and therefore, it doesn't mean take it in payment of your chayv, but it means to take it in addition to the chayv. And the Gemara proves where we see this in Rabbi Akiva. The Tanam we learned in the Mishnah. This was a Mishnah earlier in the Masechta. That we said that if someone sells a house, the bar, the pit, the dus, the cistern are not sold together with the house. Even though he wrote the depth, the height of the house, he does not get these auxiliary items in the sale. And he has to purchase a derech right away to get to the bar and to the dus. He does not get it automatically. Say the Chachamim, no. Say the Chachamim, he does not have to buy a road to get to his bar and dus. Says Rabbi Akiva, if someone says, I'm selling you the house, and I'm not selling you the bar and dus, then he doesn't have to purchase the right of way, he still retains that right. Alma, what do we see? That according to Shitas Rabbi Akiva says the Gemara, Kivan deloit sarech v'kamar. If there's something you didn't need to say, and you put it in anyways, you added in this list of Yisera. Why? According to Rabbi Akiva, letfuye milsa ka'asi, you're adding in these extra words to convey something extra. And therefore, in the case of the bar dos, it's that you get the right away. Says the Gemara in our case that you're going to get this payment in addition to the chayiv that you are owed. And we conclude, says the, hachanami kiva de lo tzarech lekamar lei letfuye milsa ka'asi, saying it to give him the extra rights, then not only do I owe you this money, but you'll still be able to collect your regular chayiv. And we wrap up today's shir at the two dots in the middle of Kuf Lamed Chesem and Beis, another halacha of Shlima Ra Tan Rabban. Shlima Ra Sha'amar Mana Yesh Li'etza Pliny, I owe $100. Excuse me, there's $100 of mine by Pliny. He owes me. Ha'edim Kaisvin. The Edim could write that what Afabi She'ein Makirin. Even if the Edim do not makir the borrower, they don't know whether this is true. Lamais, the Edim could say and write down this statement of the Shlimra. Therefore, when the Yarshim of this person tries to collect this debt, because the Eidim wrote it blindly, because the Eidim didn't really know the precise details, says Rameir, at the time of the eventual collecting, they're going to have to bring a raya. No, ain't kaisa, don't write it. Elim kein makir lefikach shukaiva. If they wrote it, that means that the Eidim knew that the story was indeed true. You wouldn't have to bring a raya. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Lihuna, Tana Rameir, a little bit different. I'll tell you what Rameir says. Ein kaisin, v'chamayrim kaisin. They flip the shitas. Rameir lo Amar Ella. When did Rameir say, according to this version, that you do not write it? We should bezdin toyin. The reason why is because we're afraid that bezdin can make a mistake. That if a star is written, they might allow the Yarshim to collect without bringing Eidos, and therefore don't write it. Amar Avdimi min Ardai Hilchs. And we conclude as follows. Ein Chayshin leBezdin Tayin. It's not something that we are suspectful for. Bezdin knows the halacha, and they will indeed require proof before allowing collection. Says the Gemara, 1 second, why is this different than Rava? That what? Amar Rava says, Ein chaltzin alam kin makir. We don't allow chalitza unless they know the stories. Ve'im emanim. We don't allow mian. The refusal of the kedushin by the ketana alam kin makirin. Lefiga kaisin get chalitza ve'get mian. V'afal b'shein makirin. Why? Because my timer. Well, there is my timer now. Lav is enough because we show the chayshin lebezdin tayin. So we see that we are chayshish for a bezdin tayin, and therefore, that is the reason why we have to be worried that the Bezdin might think that the Chalitza and the Mian was valid and allow her to remarry. And therefore, Zakash and Ravdimi says, Merlai, Bezdin, Basra, Beidin, Lo Daiki, Bezdin, Basra, Eidim, Daiki. Says the Gemara, it's not the same case. In that case, there were two Batei Dinim, because Chalitza is done in Bezdin. So if there was a Chalitza performed, then we indeed have to be worried that a latter Bezdin is going to think it was done Karai, because Bezdin adjudicated the case. But by us, it's not Bezdin, it's Eidim, and therefore we do not have to be worried for Bezdin Tayin. We'll stop over here. I'll pick it up for the Mishnah, B'siyata Dishmaya.